is up? I hope that you are well, or you know what I always say, as well as you possibly can be given the whole existing circumstance thing. My name is Jasmine Kylene. I'm a spiritual counselor, I'm a journalist, and today I'm trying something new. So I am an avid journaler. It is what's kept me sane for all of these 26 years. And I really mean that. I feel like we don't talk enough about how like having diaries as kids really is the OG journaling, and I know I have somewhere in storage like one of my first diaries, and I know I was cutting up in there, so I really need to find it. But I've been thinking about sort of starting this new like series on YouTube that would hold me accountable to create more consistent content, because I really do want to be more intentional with this channel. I really feel like it's part of my whole purpose and dharma thing. But I also think it's something that could be really intimate and cool, and I wanted to kind of start a journaling series. So weekly I want to come on and kind of share a prompt that I'm either working on now or that I worked in within that week, write on it a little bit and share what I am responding to it with, but also to like open up the dialogue so that hopefully you guys can share with me what you guys are responding to the prompt with. I really would want it to be like a dialogue and a conversation that feels intimate. So, and whatever verbiage and language that you are comfortable in, if you want to share what this prompt sort of awoke in you, in the comments below, or if you want to like privately message it to me too, that's totally cool. I just, I'm in my solitude era and I need some conversation here. So with that being said, welcome to Journaling with Jazz. That is not what I'm gonna call it, but maybe it is. This is my notebook. I just started this notebook, which is crazy because talking about how I'm in my like isolation era, and it started when Saturn opposed my moon and conjoined my sun. And this notebook, I don't know if you see it, but it has little Saturns all around. It's quite fitting. My mom bought it for me, so I feel like a lot of people probably own it because she probably got it at like Target or something. So as you can see, I've already written on the prompt. I'll probably change the format of how I do this, but I just happen to have already written on the prompt, so I'm gonna already kind of share what I responded. But the prompt itself are there any loops or cycles that are happening in your life, and what are you doing now to break them? So for context, I've had like the same conversation over and over again with like many different people in my life who feel like they're all in like a cycle and a loop. Like it feels like very specific circumstances are happening to them right now that have happened already. Like they're being faced with circumstances, relational dynamics, questions, shifts, endings, and beginnings that have already kind of happened in their life before, and it kind of feels like, why am I in this like cycle? And it can get really frustrating when you feel like you're in a loop, because it can trick you into thinking that you've digressed in your progress, or simply that you are like that you're answering to questions that you've already answered, and that you're addressing wounds that you thought you've already healed. Though I know that when these things happen, this is what I talked about, like, when you find yourself in a loop, or when you find yourself addressing similar themes that have kind of already happened in your life, the situations may mirror something that's similar. However, you, the vessel, if you've truly evolved, if you've truly healed, if you've truly grown, you're looking at these same problems and these same circumstances through a new set of eyes, and it's kind of like this opportunity to respond to them in a way that shows and proves to the universe, like, no, I really have evolved as a way of being, and like, this is how, because I now get to respond to this cycle in a new way. I hope that makes sense. But so for me, I'm having a lot of things that have happened before happen again, and like really small ways that I feel like have to be insignificant. Like I have COVID right now, and the way that I got COVID, and like the way that like just all the ways that it happened mirror exactly how it happened the first time I got COVID. And like there are other themes in my life, like my love life is mirroring a very similar place it was at before, and my relationship with my mom goes through its ebbs and flows, and we're at like a very specific like good point that we were at last, like just it's a lot of different things that feel like they're happening again, but they're not happening to the same me. They're happening to a much more evolved, seasoned version of me that really is committed to self-betterment. And I know that sometimes that up-leveling looks like really hitting those checkpoints of like, if you really do want to evolve into this being that is unconditionally loving, which I think is my like ultimate goal. I just want to be immersed, emit, attract, and embody and exude unconditional love. I know that I have to address certain things that may trigger me and call on me to not respond from a space of unconditional love. So I think a lot of these cycles are kind of like forcing me to look at like, oh, this is how I used to respond to things like this, and now I get to respond this way because I have learned from the way in which me responding the old way, how that played out. Talking. But yeah, so how do I break free of the loops? I wrote about how like the lessons that are coming up for me in terms of like breaking up these cycles that I'm finding myself in is I need to honor feeling rather than story. That kind of comes in alignment with like my love life. I think I can, as a Pisces Venus, I can like write out the story of what I want to happen relationally and then just like wait for someone to fill the role, rather than following feeling, you know, meeting someone, having an organic feeling be birthed there, and then having the story play out the way it wants to naturally. So I think that like, yeah, I need to allow whatever is happening to happen instead of trying to control it, because a lot of my problems in life come from trying to control or writing the story instead of allowing what is naturally and organically meant to happen. And I wrote about how sometimes I can get lost in like having the intention for something and having clarity when it comes to that intention, which is very important, and like confusing that for like controlling the narrative to the point where I don't leave any room for like just, yeah, like the natural chemical reaction of life to happen. Another thing that I think this loop is kind of calling me to address is just how I can respond with fear to certain things. I'm having some shifts happen when it comes to like work and money, and it's exciting because I love change. We love death and rebirth, right? We love that for us, but sometimes also it can be a little bit debilitating and jarring. Recognizing how last time when there was so much change happening, I kind of witnessed it in fear, and I'm seeing that same emotion be triggered in me right now. However, if I'm really firmly rooted in the truth that I'm always taken care of and that everything always works out best case scenario for me, then there should be no reason for me to respond from that space of fear, especially when it comes to money, because I've been working with this Reiki artist and we've been talking a lot about how, and this ties into astrology, right? Like the second house rules our relationship with finances and money, but also like our relationship with worth and value and self-value. We always talk about how money and love are very connected because it all has to do with worth and feeling deserving of. And so I'm recognizing the fact that like whenever I'm in a weird place when it comes to feeling deserving of what I desire love-wise, that can show up in how I respond and relate to money, and like having a scarcity mindset if my money is threatened at all. So yeah, I'm breaking the loop by knowing that I attract money because I am money, period. And then the last thing that I wrote, I'm being taught through this loop is like kind of what I've already mentioned at the top of this, which is just like if I truly want to live a life of unconditional love, I need to start practicing like the active choice of it. And that means really making sure that the way that I speak to myself and the way that I define myself is through the lens of unconditional love rather than conditional love, which the difference is very, very, very distinct if you begin to notice it or if you let yourself notice it. And yeah, there's a lot of situations that this cycle in my life, all the things that are repeating are kind of showing me the ways in which I place conditioning on feeling safe within myself. Like when I have everything in order and when my body is a certain way and when I feel like I'm hitting certain checkpoints in success or whatever the case may be, like when everything follows the narrative that I have written, then it is safe to love myself versus loving myself unconditionally and knowing that through the ebbs and flows and through every version of myself that I wake up in and all the ways in which that shifts throughout the day and hour and minutes, I still get to be worthy and deserving of love and self-resource validation. So I think that that's something I'm also being called to look at right now. So yeah, I want to say that if you right now are experiencing that feeling of like, why are all of these things repeating in my life right now, I would really invite you to look at what is the same about the circumstance yet different about you. What have you learned since the last time you experienced this circumstance? And I really want you to look at it from like a micro and macro lens in terms of like, are there relationship patterns that are happening again? Are there work patterns that are happening again? Are there just habits? Like what is happening again? And how can you break the cycle by responding in a way that proves you've evolved? Especially because this tends to happen, and I talked a little bit about this during my Ascension Symptoms video, but loops tend to happen when you are really at the precipice of evolution, of up-leveling in self. And I don't believe in a universe that tests us, but I do believe in a universe that prepares us. And so if these triggers are triggers that happen on a day-to-day in this human experience, the universe will kind of plant them into, or sort of place them as obstacles into your journey to say, did you learn from the last time? And can you now prove to yourself that you are worthy and capable of handling this new timeline ascension that you're calling into your life? So yes, I hope you feel called to answer to this prompt. It's a pretty good one, especially if it relates to where you're at right now. And like I said, if you feel safe to, please share your responses below or directly to me if you want to be more private about it. I respect that. Word to Beyonce. And I'll see you for the next prompt. Bye. Oh, also subscribe and stuff like that. Okay.